players and what he saw from them, the challenge that he has for guys like Ryan Johansson, Matt Duchene. We learned yesterday what we kind of suspected, that Yossi and Forsberg were dealing with concussions and just weren't quite ready to be able to come back into the lineup. But still a lot to be addressed, a lot of questions to be answered when it comes to the Nashville Predators, and we'll get some of that coming up at 10 o'clock today. But I do want to start with, the season being over. It ends Friday night. Great game Friday night against Colorado, as the Avs it kind of pulled to an early lead, but the Predators kept fighting back. They end up tying it. It was 3-3 late in the third period, and with less than 2 minutes left, I believe it was, Colorado scores. That Nathan McKinnon guy is pretty good. Gets his third goal of the game for a hat trick, and ultimately gives them the win, 4-3. The Predators' season was going to end no matter what, but they were trying to play spoiler because had Colorado lost, they would have lost the division. But they ended up winning the division for the second year in a row, which I believe somebody on this show said, watch out for Colorado. Now, they still are dealing with injuries. Landeskog's not going to play, but I think that that's still a really tough team, and until a team can knock them out in a series in the playoffs, I'm not going to rule them out. But that is how the Predators' season would come to an end. So yesterday, the locker cleanout, where a lot of players that are going to return home, if it's another country or another city, what have you, they usually do that pretty quick after the season ends. And so they did that yesterday. And a lot of different storylines, questions that were answered came out of that. I mentioned the injuries. We obviously know that what Ryan Johansson was dealing with the Achilles, and he talked about that a little bit more. But Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, what does it mean moving forward for them? Philip Forsberg talked about kind of this transition that they're going into with this team moving forward.
I feel like this team is kind of headed towards a transition a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously you have to say that. I mean, guys, you trade guys like Ekholm, who's been there for a really long time, obviously, and other key pieces like Granlund was an assistant captain. Janot was obviously a great player too, and Niederreiter. But then we get guys that come in, like I think everyone that we brought in this year, is, including all the Milwaukee guys, but like Tyson and Footer that we came in at the deadline, like guys that had impacts. I think Aspie played well too in the games that he played, and like there's definitely excitement. I mean, especially on the younger guys. Like I said, I thought guys like obviously Noe coming in having such a great year again. I thought he played really good last year too, and then was sent down, and I think he's developed really well. And then, like I said, you see guys like Evangelista, like Thomas coming back up again. It's been fun to watch, and it's obviously a huge summer for them to kind of prepare, because a little bit of a taste. It's going to be harder. I mean, for them, for all of us, but I think the guys have everything what it takes. It's just about them kind of putting the work in the summer.
That was Philip Forsberg yesterday talking about the transition with this team, and I believe that is the word to use, and that's what David Poile has called it. He's called it a transition. I thought it was interesting hearing some of the players say, that some of the players were saying that at the trade deadline, it kind of felt like a rebuild. But then if you watch the play of the team and how far they went, it became more of a reset. I think it was Roman Josi that said that's how they view this right now, that it's less of a rebuild, more of a reset. The question is going to be, what other veterans could leave in the offseason. And, everybody is going to focus on two individuals in particular, Ryan Johansson and Matt Duchene. I said it a few weeks ago. I would be hard-pressed to say that both are back. I believe one of the two could be gone. I think that there could be a scenario where you trade Duchene. Now you're probably going to have to retain some salary if you do that. You're not going to get a huge return, but you do have all these extra draft picks that you acquired at the trade deadline that you could possibly use to entice a team to take the contract. So that is a possibility. With Johansson, I don't see any value there at all. You would likely have to buy him out. And I know that David Poile, they obviously bought out Kyle Turris. He's been hesitant in his career to retain salary on a trade and also do a ton of buyouts. He's very cognizant of the cap and being able to protect the cap and have as much cap room as possible. The cap's not going up a lot this year, so that's obviously going to be something that Barry Trotz is, going to be looking at. Now, they have a lot of cap room right now, but that's something that they're going to keep an eye on. So I think some of those questions will come up today. They're not going to have the answers today. At least they're not going to have them publicly or share them publicly today. I think we know that. But those two guys, I believe, are going to be talked about quite a bit with this offseason. And, they're going to have more planning time because the offseason is beginning now in mid-April, whereas, in years past it's been at least early May before they get to that. So, by the time the NHL draft and the award show is in this building at Bridgestone Arena, I do think that, this team could continue to look a little bit different, as you could have somebody like a Ryan Johansson or a Matt Duchene, one of the two, be gone. Colton Sissons is another one, part of the leadership group, veteran on this team, has a very team-friendly type contract that I think would be enticing for somebody. Tyson Berry is a guy that they got at the deadline, but, you could move him. I don't think they're going to do that, though. I think listening to Barry Trotz as, when he was on Stillman and Company the other day, I get the sense that he's going to try and again, reset, that he's not looking to go full-on rebuild with this team. He's wanting to keep some of these pieces that really came in at the trade deadline and, added to the team and helped the team win. And so I don't see a whole lot of change when it comes to veterans other than Duchene and Johansson. Michelle Knazovic joins us now. Glad they finally let you in. we need to
peeking my little eyes through the little window.
Like how do I get in this building? But just Predators, we're kind of discussing what we're going to hear coming up at 10 o'clock, and I think it's an interesting time. But as Roman Josi put it, I like the word transition. That's where I think they're at. I don't see this as a full-on rebuild. They could still go that direction, but I don't feel like they want to. And it would also appear that with John Hines being a part of the press conference today, I would say that he's going to be back as the head coach.
Chase, I agree. I think, when they announced that John Hines would be with Barry Trotz and David Poile speaking today as a end-of-the-season recap, where we are right now, what are the changes into next season, I look at that as this is who they're going with right now, and they are starting the season that way. He has one more year on his deal. But I look at this team, and you were talking about Roman Josi's comments as well. This team has options right now, and I think that is so important in any sport, really. In any professional sport, any collegiate sport, they have options. They have different ways that they can go. They have a great group of young guys who really prove themselves and prove that they can hang in the NHL these last couple of weeks. And then they have veteran guys who were injured, but they know what they are. And in addition to that, they have all of this draft capital now, and they have cap space right now. The draft is in Nashville. Barry Trotz the transition is going to be slow. He will take over right after the draft. But this team has so many different options. Do you want to, put that draft capital together and go get somebody? You have an option to do that if you think that would be a better path. So I look at this team right now. I look at the position they're in, and I think they're in a really, really good position. But as Roman Josi said, I don't foresee this being a full rebuild, more of a reset, whether they decide to add a couple pieces through the draft, through free agency, and things like that.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see what kind of hints we get on that today, because you mentioned Barry Trotz. And, yes, on paper, officially takes over July 1st, but I think it's pretty clear that he's had his hands on what's been going on. And, he and David Poile are obviously very close and how they have worked together. I want to discuss that aspect a little bit more in depth coming up next, because there are several different directions that Barry Trotz could go with this offseason and honestly put this team back in playoff contention as early as next year. We'll discuss that. We'll also take your calls and texts. 615-737-1025. That's our phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We're live today from the Jack Daniels Barrel House at Bridgestone Arena. Predators press conference coming up at 10. We'll have it for you here on 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willie, and D-Mace. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
All right, let's talk Superbook sports. Baseball is back, and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook is the best wagering app around, and with a direct line to experienced bookmakers behind the counter in Las Vegas. Plus, listen to this. Right now, you can get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager all on the same day. It's that easy. So go to your app store, download that Superbook Sports app, create your account, deposit your money, and then get to betting. Whether you like single bets, if you're just starting out, maybe you want to throw a couple of parlays together, maybe a 3-legger, 4-legger, what have you. And they also have future bets. So if you're looking ahead and, watch the first few games of baseball, you're feeling good about a team, want to put some money down on them to win it all, you can do that right at the palm of your hand with the Superbook Sports app. So don't let spring pass you by without winning money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
It's time for another Kubota field event at Coleman Tractor of White House. Their biggest sale event of the year will take place in White House on Saturday, April 22nd. Don't miss this perfect opportunity to demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. Take advantage of Kubota's competitive financing offers. Receive a coupon for up to $250 off select purchases. Plus, enter to win prizes and free barbecue lunch from 11 to 1. Try it and buy it during the Kubota field event Saturday, April 22nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor of White House at 3613 Highway 31 West.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Willie Donick here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan would only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money to pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. Even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness and say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
The Low Post Podcast with Zach Lowe.
Tatum, I think at worst, he's third in MVP right now. He's playing defense at a borderline all-defense level. He's too young for these conversations to really start in earnest. If he's a Celtic for life for most of his career, he has a chance to be historically, for the one of the two historic giants in the league, as great as any player who's ever worn that uniform, including Bird.
Check out the Low Post Podcast on the ESPN app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
When you want live and local.
If they were just better at the offensive line.
You can be a contender in the AFC again.
They've had more winning seasons than not. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game has you covered. Looking for some national programming?
Why do I want to get a running back like that 5 more years?
The AFC now is so deep at quarterback.
Check out 94.9 The Fan. Nashville's home for all things sports is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and 94.9 The Fan. Taking you through your mid-morning.
Love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. This is Chase and Michelle.
Where'd you find those crazy characters?
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What did you think of just watching these guys go down the stretch, the younger guys, and so many people out line up and still kind of hold their head above water?
For me, it was inspiring. I think that's the best word for it. For me, and just to being a fan and supporting everyone in our group and just bringing energy to the rink and having fun. I really enjoyed going around interacting with fans throughout my time and just hearing from them how they were proud of the kids and how our team was playing, and especially because the first 6 months of the season we didn't have that feeling. We felt like we were letting our fans down, and so it was good to get our feet back going and have some kids come up and trying for them to make names for themselves, and I feel like we we showed everyone now we still got this. We still have the character and heart in this organization that we want to prove to our fans every night that we're going to work our butts off for them and entertain them. And so that's all the credit to those young kids coming up, and then our guys who were still healthy and leading them and helping them out to be the best they could be. And obviously our pretty good goalie there doing his thing. So for me, it was inspiring.
That was Ryan Johansson yesterday, locker cleanout day. Back here, Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. She's Michelle Knezvik, Chase McCabe, Nick Kieser back at our studios. And talking about the young guys and the Milwaukee guys, however you want to put it, the Predators did announce yesterday that they've re-signed Kiefer Sherwood to a one-year deal worth $775,000, and also Michael McCarron to a one-year deal worth $775,000. I like those moves. They're obviously, whatever Barry Trotz is looking to do, going to have some depth pieces, and those are certainly two good depth pieces. And for those of you that have followed Barry Trotz for a long time, even going back to his days here, Kiefer Sherwood and Michael McCarron are Barry Trotz type guys, workhorse guys that maybe don't get a lot of credit. But when Sherwood came up, he certainly made a difference with this young group. So they'll be back on one-year deals. But what is this team going to look like moving forward? So today is going to be a bittersweet day, because to me this is, even though there are going to be other things with David Poile, he's going to be a part of the draft, I think Barry Trotz is basically taking over. And that was kind of the plan. Now, David's still the general manager. He'll still, obviously be helping with things. But I think now is kind of the moment, because you can't wait until it becomes official, because a lot of moves need to be made before the draft. And so I know that they have worked very well together, through this whole thing. And but I kind of look at today as this is the, essentially part of the goodbye to David Poile when it comes to being the general manager. And so I expect a lot of that. And they gave David a very nice honor the other night. And, I was told they were going to do something, but it was going to be very spontaneous. And I thought it was, and it worked perfect with the entire team coming off the bench, going to the corner of the ice where David sits and raising their sticks to him. I mean, you think about sports, how long has one, he's been here 25 years as a general manager, but
my entire lifetime.
Yeah.
Which is insane to think about.
He's been a general manager in this league for over 40 years, which is just crazy to think about, going back to his time with the Washington Capitals. So David deserves every accolade that he's gotten. He's going to get every honor. He's going to get honored at the draft. He deserves it all. But you've got to start that transition now, and I believe they have. And so I feel like a lot of the messaging that you're going to hear today is going to be from Barry Trotz, because essentially this is his team now.
Yeah, the next time this team plays a hockey game that matters, he will be the general manager. So now you're correct. We've been in this transition period, Chase, and I remember when they announced this right around the trade deadline, when they had the whole David Poile announces his retirement. They announced that Barry Trotz will be taking over, and they had a huge press conference. Then we talked to Barry Trotz afterwards. Actually, our very own Max Hers asked this question. He said, so how much was your involvement in the Matthias Ekholm trade?
Yeah.
How much was your involvement in the Tanner Jeannot trade? And he was vocal. He said, I was involved in all of those.
Yeah.
So, when you say, yes, his hand has been in all of these things, I completely agree, right? It's the transition period. And I think the reason that they're doing this right, and I give the Predators a lot of credit. We talk a lot about sports franchises as a whole, any sport. A lot of the times when you see a general manager of a team for a long time leave, it's very quick. It's okay, if I retire, yep, we're gonna fill your replacement, you take over, I'm done, however it may be. Or if it's a firing, that's usually quick as well. So the way that this is happening, I think, is so incredibly unique, not only because they have had that past relationship. Barry Trotz is very, very well known within this community, within this organization, an organization that doesn't have a lot of turnover. an organization that has a lot of the same people working here that were working here when Barry Trotz was the coach here.
Yeah.
And the opportunity he has when these conversations started in December to somebody who's been a very successful coach in the NHL but never has held a leadership role like this on the management side of things, has been able to, behind the scenes, work with David, give his input in things to make these big decisions. You know, probably the biggest time, I think we've talked about this, the biggest time they've sold off the most in probably Preds history.
Yep.
He's been able to see how the ins and the outs work. He's a part of these conversations, and now, you know, transitioning, but David Poile will still be there for this draft. And I think that's important too, because, you know, as much as Barry Trotz has all the knowledge on the NHL, he's never actually sat in this specific seat. So I think that the way that they're doing this, I mean, you think of if you're training for any type of job, you are able to see what somebody who's been very successful in this business do. And although technically David Poile is still the general manager until June 31st or 30th.
Yep.
Barry Trotz is very, very much involved.
Yeah. I think what's going to be interesting, too, is like one thing that I would like answered today is, you know, he has this is a young team. This is a team that got a lot younger, and that was the goal. But because of the amount of draft picks and assets that you have, you can make trades and reload pretty quickly if you wanted to. Does he want to go find and you know, free agencies – there's not a great free agent class, but does he want to go to a team that may be kind of going the same direction, wanting to get younger, but find an established veteran guy that still has a lot left? I'll use this as an example because I know this is going to come up. I think that the Washington Capitals are a team in transition.
Yes.
He's obviously very familiar with somebody named Ovechkin. I'm not saying this is what they're going to do.
Oh, gosh, Chaser.
But what if they? I mean, you know, does he want to go for it right now and just, you know, literally hit reset but you know, you're going to add a big time piece like that. I mean, that would elevate your team pretty quick. Now, I heard Joe Rexroad ask the question this morning on Robby and Rexroad. If you have this core group of young guys that came in this year. And then you get Forsberg, Yossi, Duchesne back healthy, and even throw Johansson in there, and that they have, you know, good years. Is this a playoff team? I think the answer is yes. Now, is this a Stanley Cup contending playoff team? I don't know. I think they're missing a piece or two for that. And so I know when the fan base hears that, they go, well, okay, then let's take a couple steps back and get this to where it is a Stanley Cup contending team. That's what they have to decide. Like, and I think you don't make all these moves to just kind of get back to where you were. So he's going to have to look at this roster and go, you know what? I think this is a team that can contend for the Cup. And if he feels that way, then okay, then you go for it. Now you add a player like Ovechkin, I would say that's going to help you. But
you're right back in the conversation if you add someone like that.
But and so I don't know, I don't know how much he's going to answer, what he's looking for from a veteran standpoint today. And then the other part is, you always hear the phrase, you don't want to be the guy that follows the guy or be the girl that follows the girl. I think that we can all agree David Poile's been the guy for a long time, and now Barry Trotz has to follow that. I also feel like he's the most qualified to do that because he's worked with David Poile for so long. But, I know, I'll use this as a personal experience. When I became program director at 102.5, Ryan had done a lot of good things here. I'd follow that. But I also I went into it as, okay, I want to make this mine. I want to do this my way. I'm not him, and he's not me. And so sometimes you overthink that. And I wonder how much Barry Trotz has kind of thought that of, well, David did it this way, so maybe I need to do it this way, even though David's way worked, because those are conversations like I had with myself. And you eventually find your way and you figure it out. But that because Barry's never been a general manager before. So, there are going to be some maybe the decisions that he makes that might not be that have the result that he wanted. But I'm curious to kind of get inside his mind a little bit as he goes through this transition.
No, Chase, I completely agree. And no, he hasn't sat as the general manager, but he is able now to understand because he was a coach for so long,
Yep.
he is able to look at it from that perspective as well. He understands what John Hines is going through, what John Hines needs to be successful. Not only does he have to, be a good coach, right? You have to be good at your job, but he also understands that in pro sports, I need to give you the players and give you a roster that helps you also be successful. I actually look at Brad Stevens with the Celtics.
Yeah.
Such a successful coach for them over the years. And, he moves into a front office position. I mean, look at the Celtics the last couple of years. They've been a team that has been constructed from top to bottom, immense depth on their team, and a team that, they just came off a huge run in the NBA playoffs last year. So, it's interesting because I do feel like years and years ago we didn't see it as much, but I do think it's becoming more and more common that we are having coaches maybe at the back half of their career or just a transition in their career saying, I want to take a step into the front office position. And I think this situation is very interesting because Barry not only coached for this franchise for so long, he worked with David Poile for so long. He understands what John Hines is going through right now as a coach. He understands that, okay, now I'm starting to see the business type of things, but I know the players that you want.
Right. Yeah, and I think that partnership is certainly going to make this easier. Coming up next, usually on Mondays, we talk to Jonathan Hutton from Outkick at 10:30 because of the press conference. We're going to do that coming up. Come out to Bridgestone Arena on April 22nd at 2 o'clock for the Nashville Predators Open House. This open house will include tours of the Preds locker room, the Lexus Lounge, team store, and the chance to shoot on net to win 2 lower-level full-season tickets for next season. Get more details at NashvillePredators.com/open house. Jonathan Hutton up next here on Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
When it comes to Nashville sports,
Locking up Jeffrey Simmons, clearly that was a priority for them.
he knows his stuff
A little bit good, a little bit bad.
and knows how to push the right buttons.
He's coming off an ACL tear, and he's 25 years old, so you cannot ignore that.
Join Outkick's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and Company. Withrow
What I hate more than anything is people that are phony and not true to themselves.
is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The Electronic Express Spring Clearance event has been extended. Get instant savings in every department, including all appliances, laptops and tablets, smart home, gaming consoles, speakers, and more. At Electronic Express, we have up to 50% off all your home theater needs, including 4K TVs, soundbars, and more. In stock and ready to deliver. Plus, buy now, pay later with up to 3 years free financing. Shop the Spring Clearance event in store or online at Electronic Express. We make it happen.
The designer jewelry event of the year is this weekend at Genesis Diamonds. See all new creations from the world's biggest names in jewelry. Store-wide savings up to 35% and zero interest financing. Top designers are here with their newest creations: rings, earrings, pendants, bands, bracelets, many being shown for the first time. Extra savings on GIA certified diamonds as well as lab-grown diamonds too. Don't miss this once-a-year spring store-wide sale Friday through Sunday only at Genesis Diamonds and luxury pre-owned Rolexes, Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Hey, it's Jared for Hiller. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks, but there's actually big problems that can come from outdated old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems require more maintenance and results in higher utility bills. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Everybody wins with a trade-in credit and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacement. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
When Smashville wants to rock,
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Looking to the sky to save me, looking for a sign of life, 'cause it's too cold for you here.
we are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz. We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh yeah, and like us on Facebook too.
I got some good news.
Taking you through your mid-morning, this is Chase and Michelle on 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Join Robby Stanley from 10 to noon this Saturday for another Kubota field event at the Coleman Tractor in White House, Tennessee for their biggest sales event of the year. You can demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. That's Coleman Tractor of White House, located at 3613 Highway 31 West this Saturday. Go by, say hi to Robby, and get you a tractor as well out at Coleman Tractor. Chase McCabe, Michelle Knezvik here at Bridgestone Arena, Jack Daniels Barrel House. We'll have the Predators press conference coming up at 10 on these airwaves with Barry Trotz, David Poyle, and John Hines. So looking forward to that. We'll have Jonathan Hutton join us from Outkick here in just a few minutes as the draft is approaching rapidly. So I had an interesting conversation with Jared the other night at the Preds game, and I don't know I don't know where I'm at on this, but I will admit, and I want to get into this more tomorrow, because I want to admit this time of year is when us talking heads, as people like to call us, there is a little bit of, oh, well, I love this guy, and then a few weeks later, well, I don't love him as much anymore, but I love this guy. And then,
yes.
Look, I admit it. It happens because you go through the combine, and then you go through pro days, and then you hear about meetings and Wonderlic scores and S2 testing and all these things. And you read mock drafts, and guy moves up or a guy moves down. And so we all flip-flop and we all change. A guy that I have been like, no, not interested in for a long time is Anthony Richardson. And maybe I'm starting to come around.
Is it because he's visiting today?
No, I don't know if it's because he's visiting today. It's because I've kind of watched a little bit more closely, and I've read a little bit more of from guys that know way more than I do on him, and it's like, could this dude actually be it? Could he be him, as they like to say?
Well, Chase, I think it's very fair, because one of the words that I've used to describe this quarterback class, I think since we first started talking about them in the when the NFL season ended, was polarizing. There is no one sure guy. Even the people who believe that Bryce Young is going to be the next Patrick Mahomes, well, it's his size. Okay?
Yeah.
So there is not one guy in this draft class that is the Joe Burrow, even the Trevor Lawrence, clear number one overall. He's clearly going to be a franchise quarterback for an organization someday. Everybody has something about them. Now, C.J. Stroud, apparently he didn't do very well on his S2 testing. That's another knock for him. Or the fact that, a lot of people are saying, well, he was at Ohio State, great receivers. Can he overcome the adversity? And then the three that we've talked about the most, I would say probably the most likely for the Tennessee Titans to get, whether that's a trade up to number 3, whether that's a stay at 11 and a Will Levis and Anthony Richardson or a Hendon Hooker drop. But the reason I believe it's because maybe you'll read a little bit more on a guy, or maybe you'll watch a little bit more film on a guy, or there's an analyst. Maybe you really like a Dan Orlovsky, and you watch his breakdown of an Anthony Richardson. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, like I could see it. I can see it. Because so many of these guys have moments that you watch on their college film, or for instance, Anthony Richardson just being an athletic freak where you're like, ooh, I could see it. I could see if he was in maybe a good organization and developed right, I could see him become X, Y, and Z. I could see him become him, like you just said. But I go back to, they're all so polarizing. They all have something that just knocks them a little bit, and you're like, ugh, that could go really, really wrong.
But what if, and I think this would be the draft to where it would be the most fascinating. What if this draft turns out to be like one of the best quarterback classes of all time?
It could be. Or it could be the worst.
Like what if Anthony Richardson, we're talking about in a few years of the top quarterbacks in the league are Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud, and Hendon Hooker. And maybe Levis is the one that's left out, or maybe Hooker's the one that's left out, or maybe one of the 5 is not very good, but a majority of them are. I mean, what if? I don't think that's likely, because even I'm trying to think. I guess was it 83 was the best with Elway and Marino and all those guys. I think that's the best quarterback class of all time, probably. But what if we have something similar to that this year. And nobody thinks that with this class, because that's kind of been the consensus. Everybody looks at this class and goes, you might get one of them as a superstar, but next year. But next year is going to be the good
I think too, part of it is how we've seen players evolve at the quarterback position. I mean, you look at a Patrick Mahomes who went, mid in the first round, and you didn't think of him that he was going to become who he was. And you've seen this position be so incredibly important to a team's success. I mean, we've gone down the list of the AFC in how teams are viewed differently when you have that guy. The position has always been important, but when you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl window is his entire career. Or a guy like Joe Burrow, the Super Bowl window is his entire career. But then we've also seen guys like a Josh Allen coming out of college who, they struggled with interceptions, but they're a big-bodied guy. They're a tough guy. They'd run through somebody to get the first down. And maybe at first Josh Allen was viewed of, oh, God, that was going to be an awful choice for Buffalo, but is able to break through, and they, because of coaching, are able to, limit the turnovers, fix the accuracy a little bit, because they knew he was a big-bodied guy.
Sure.
But they could mold him into what they wanted. And I think that opens more doors for even a guy like Anthony Richardson and Will Levis, that people look at them a little bit differently coming out of college of, okay, maybe they didn't have the best college careers, but we see some things, and we can work with that. And we believe as a staff or as an organization, well, we can mold this guy into what we want him to be and put the right pieces around him.
One texter on our text line, driven by Wilson County Hyundai.com, says this quarterback class is trash and a product of ESPN hyping the easily influenced. Well, I mean, you might be right. I don't know. And then Wes in Clarksville says, I think the quarterback class depends on the team they go to. If the Lions draft Bryce Young, do you think he will look like a superstar or will he look like a bust? You put him on the Chiefs or another superstar team, and they'll look different. I'll say this, Wes. Jared Goff's looked pretty darn good with the Lions. I mean, they were almost a playoff team last year.
Yeah, I will say, I think when it comes to, though, like Jared Goff being a veteran when he went over, or at least established a bit, when he went over to the Lions versus a rookie heading there, I think so much of it depends on the organization you get drafted to. I mean, how many times we talk about, Patrick Mahomes, he got to sit for a bit under Alex Smith, and that allowed him to develop and progress. And how we talk about, with Daniel Jones with the Daboll, like a lot of the reason he became what he was able to be for the Giants this year, he had a guy like Brian Daboll, who's an offensive genius, or Josh Allen was with Daboll. I think a lot of it depends on that. But, I mean, if you go number one overall to a team and you're thrown out there and they have an awful roster, you can get ruined very, very, very quickly in this league.
Yeah, so I think you have to obviously be careful. But the question is going to be, if you're the Titans, do you give up what it's going to take to get to 3? Which is, likely going to cost you several first-round picks, probably 41 this year, your second.
Yep.
So that's a lot. But if you go up to 3 and you get the guy, then you can fill the holes. You just have to fill them in different ways. Whether it's, and maybe you tell Arizona, like, hey, can I keep my second, but would you take Kevin Byard? Would you take a player? And so maybe that entices them. I don't know. But I think you have to be really, really sure, especially if you're Rand Carthon and this is your first draft and you're trying to make a big impression and you want to go get your guy. And J-Rob never got to draft his quarterback. Mariota was the year before. He inherited Mariota. And we see how that worked out. So you better be darn sure that you're getting the guy, if you make that move, and then you figure out the rest around it.
So Wes in Clarksville also texts back in, and I think this is a really good point. He texts back in, and he says, I thought Trevor Lawrence was almost ruined. Well, here's what happened, right? Trevor Lawrence, he gets drafted, right? Urban Meyer, we all know that was a dumpster fire down there.
Yeah.
What happens when Trevor Lawrence actually gets some weapons and gets an established head coach in the league?
Yeah,
in Doug Peterson.
He looks good.
He takes that jump. He takes that extra step. Listen, if Urban was his coach for a couple years in Jacksonville, who knows what would be going on down there? You just don't know. But I think so much of it is the coach you have, is the quarterback coach you have. Can you develop a young guy and help him take that next step? And your general manager, your organization as a whole, can you give them those weapons to help them take that next level? I mean, what rookie quarterback is going to do good if you have a depleted offensive line, maybe one or two weapons on offense, an average defense? Nobody. You are setting up to fail. So if you are an organization, like honestly, I look at the Colts at 4 right now. Their offense, their offensive line, decent. Michael Pittman Jr., Jonathan Taylor, a solid defense. I actually look at an organization like that. A new head coach who really helped Jalen Hurts take that next step with the Eagles. I look at an organization like that, and that would be actually a good fit for a rookie quarterback. And you have also a Gardner Minshew who is, a backup, but a really good
veteran
backup in the NFL who could, start a bit, and you could learn under him and not have that pressure to be out there every single Sunday.
The Predators press conference is coming up at 10, but coming up next, it was a wacky day in the NBA playoffs. I have a rant on the association,
Ooh, okay.
and I need you to tell me if I'm off base or not. That we will do next. Join us for draft night in Nashville. The best NFL draft coverage is on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. You can join us on location as we broadcast live from Wingstop, where flavor gets its wings, located at 3600 Gallatin Pike in Nashville on Friday, April 28th. Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The college football season never stops. ESPN college football analyst Trevor Manich joins Stillman and Company every Tuesday at 4:30.
They've got to do what Nick Saban in Alabama has done so successfully over the last 10 years.
Presented by Houston Clinic Orthopedics on Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
All right, baseball is back, and the push for the postseason is on for hockey and hoops. Actually, the postseason is here. Make it all count this spring with Superbook Sports. Superbook Sports is the best wagering app around, with a direct line to experienced bookmakers right there behind the counter in Las Vegas. Right now, you can get a $250 bonus when you sign up, deposit, and wager all in the same day. So what you do is you go to your app store, whether it's Apple, Android, doesn't matter. You type in Superbook Sports, you download the app, you create your account, you deposit your money, and then you get to betting. If you're like me, do some singles. They're very easy. You throw that in there. You can put some parlays together, whether it's a 3-legger, 2 or 4-legger, what have you. And they even have future bets. If you've watched the first few games of baseball, you like what you see, you can put something on a team to win the championship. Same goes for pro basketball. Now that the playoffs are underway, it's right there at the palm of your hand with the Superbook Sports app. So don't let spring pass you by without winning some money with Superbook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-889-9789.
Want to enter the construction field as a career? Make good money and finish with no debt and earn while you learn. Average starting salary over $18 an hour. First year of college averages $10,000. 4 years of our Construction Trades Academy, a total of $8,000 to $9,600. Applications are open with first-year scholarships available. CTANash.com. ABC Greater Tennessee Construction Trades Academy. Apply today. CTANash.com.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
It's time for another Kubota field event at Coleman Tractor of White House. Their biggest sale event of the year will take place in White House on Saturday, April 22nd. Don't miss this perfect opportunity to demo Kubota tractors, zero-turn mowers, and more. Take advantage of Kubota's competitive financing offers. Receive a coupon for up to $250 off select purchases. Plus, enter to win prizes and free barbecue lunch from 11 to 1. Try it and buy it during the Kubota field event Saturday, April 22nd from 9 to 2 p.m. at Coleman Tractor of White House at 3613 Highway 31 West.
April was a busy hiring month for Cromwell Media, the owner of this radio station. We're saluting 3 teammates for 8 years of service. Cliff McCardle, our promotions director, and Jared Stillman and Ian Safar on 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Janet Gers in our business office passes the 6-year mark. And Junnie Riddle in promotions and Lance Mackey in sales are celebrating 2 years with us. These folks are making a difference every day. Come join our amazing team. Send us your resume at together@cromwellmedia.com. That's together@cromwellmedia.com.
Want to weigh in on the conversation? It's a brain booster. Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You're listening to Chase and Michelle on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Tough, man. Especially, with everything I've been through pretty much, this season. My main focus was to, be out there for my guys. Another, incident where, that's pretty much in, jeopardy. So, but I know, I'm going to do anything to, try to be out there for my team, be out there on the floor. It's pretty much, how much, I can tolerate. I feel like, I can go out there and, be somewhat myself. I'll probably play, but if not, I don't want to do anything to, hurt the team. So.
That was John Morant yesterday after the Grizzlies fall to the Lakers 128-112 in Game 1 of their series. Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Nashville Predators press conference coming up in about 12 minutes. Caroline Fenton going to join the fray too, so we can get on down to where the press conference is. So we will carry that for you right here on these airwaves. For the Predators and their end-of-season press conference. But yesterday, watching the game, watching the Grizzlies and the Lakers, so there were a lot of injuries throughout the day. I mean, Giannis got hurt and couldn't finish the game, with his back. Tyler Hero got hurt. I think broke his hand.
Yeah,
so
he's officially got the broken hand.
Yeah, so there were definitely some injuries, and then Ja is in jeopardy of missing Game 2 against the Lakers. But here's my rant, and I'm very curious to hear how you're going to respond to this. Because going into this series, I think it'll be a good series. Ultimately, I still think, Memphis can win. Now, if they don't have Ja, that could certainly change things.
Yeah, very
Ja,
different.
but AD's banged up. AD got banged up during the game yesterday.
AD's always hurt.
I know. He got scraped, and he was like, oh, gosh, my arm. But here's my rant. I feel like that this is the National Basketball LeBron James Association and how they've laid this schedule out that the Lakers go through the whole play-in thing, but then they get, 2 or 3 days off, start the series. Game 2 is not until Wednesday. 3 games, which I hate the scheduling of the NBA playoffs. They drive me crazy with, let's do Game 1 and then wait a week and we'll do Game 2. I mean, I know that's an exaggeration, but it drives me nuts. But I feel like this is just, and there were some calls yesterday that I'm going, really? I don't know about all that. And it feels like they love LeBron. They're favoring LeBron.
Oh, my gosh, Jay.
I'm going there. I just think that this is just what we're going to get. Now, again, if Ja comes back healthy, whether it's Game 2 or Game 3, then I still feel confident in Memphis. I liked Jaren Jackson's game yesterday.
Yeah, I thought
he played a good game. But, and then they let I'm blanking, the guy for the Lakers that just balled out yesterday.
And Anthony, right?
No, I'm blanking on his name. But anyway.
Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves.
Austin
Thank
Reeves.
you.
There
Thank
you
you,
go.
Nick. Austin Reeves. Yeah.
I'm thinking Antonio Reeves. He's a Kentucky player.
Yeah,
I know it's Reeves.
Yeah, Austin Reeves. But
Well, the Lakers bench. I mean, he had, I think, the last 9 points of the game or something like that. I mean, their bench really, really stepped up. I've said recently, I think that Jared Vanderbilt, one of the additions they got, he's been a great compliment, especially on defense. And Chase, you are sipping the Kool-Aid with the LeBron.
Maybe I am.
Listen, LeBron is an old man out there, and he still balls against all these 24-year-olds. You see him run and chase down the court, have that nasty block. I mean, LeBron James, listen, he is, every star player is going to try to get calls. We can blame the refs. I don't think there was anything egregious that was the difference maker in this game. I also think, too, when John Morant, is out, I look at this Memphis Grizzlies team. Yes, a good team, but when John Morant's out and also Steven Adams is out, it's a completely different team, especially with the size that the Lakers have on the other side. I also think they defended really, really well, and this Lakers team has looked the best they have all season long. Is LeBron, has he gone to whatever team he wants, gotten pretty much whatever player he wants to play with? Yes, but I think when it comes to, on the court, it's still LeBron James. I am not a big LeBron James fan because I just don't like the whole I'll go to whatever team I want and then I'm just going to say, hey, Anthony Davis, come up here. I don't like that aspect of things where this league has become so player-driven in the sense of they can figure out how to get whoever they want to play with on
that's
their
what's
team.
going to happen with John Morant. Like, anybody that thinks Ja's going to play his whole career in Memphis is crazy. I don't think he is. I think eventually, this kid is a superstar, and the Grizzlies are going to have to keep getting him some help. I look at John Morant with Memphis right now, and I don't mean any disrespect to Jaren Jackson, who, like I said, Jaren Jackson Jr. had a great game yesterday, 31 points. Brooks is good. I like Brooks, but Bane, you got to get him more. Like, you got to go find. It's like LeBron when he was in Cleveland, he had nobody. It's like so.
Yeah, then they got him Kyrie.
And then, you're right, but that's when he came back. The second that he left, he went to Miami because they wouldn't get him any help. So, I kind of look at it like that you got to be able to get him more help. But
well, and I think they have. He's been injured. Think about last year against the Warriors, right? He had the nagging knee injury, and now this year he hurts his hand. I actually think if you look at this team top to bottom, it's a decently very good role players on this team. I agree there needs to be some sort of another superstar who can be just a spot up 3-point shooter. Like a Klay Thomas, honestly, like a Kevin Huerter in Sacramento with Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox, just like a solid 3-point shooter guy. But I also don't think that this Memphis Grizzlies team is so far off of winning a championship. I just think injuries have killed them.
Yeah,
they've killed them. Somebody hurt their Achilles a couple weeks ago, and his name is escaping me, but he was a role player for this team. Ja has struggled with injuries the last couple of years. Losing Steven Adams is huge, and honestly, once I saw that, I was nervous for this series, especially because although LA had when Russell was on the team earlier this year, the team was just bad. They couldn't figure it out. They were bad. They had a bad record, and then, they string things together towards the end of the year. They end up, winning the play, and I see this matchup as, okay, well, it's still the Lakers. LeBron and Anthony Davis are still on this team and can still ball. So it's going to be interesting. I think depending on Ja's health, this could be the Lakers to lose.
Sure.
Which sucks, especially because we love watching Ja Morant play.
Yes, indeed. But we'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out. Coming up next, the Nashville Predators press conference. David Poile, Barry Trotz, and John Hines. That is all ahead here on Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
In football, we all take our hits, but protection keeps you in the game. That's why I always wore a helmet and pads on the field. Life too comes with risk, so I got vaccinated and boosted for COVID-19. Hi, this is former Tennessee Titan running back and 3-time Pro Bowler Chris Johnson. Talk to your doctor. and get the information you need to make an informed choice. Gear Up Tennessee. Protect yourself and your family against COVID-19.
For more information, go to nflagearup.org/Tennessee.
In business, everything your employees do impacts your brand, including what they wear. Cintas has high-performance workplace apparel for almost every job imaginable. From work shirts and pants, to polos and khakis, to Oxfords or T-shirts, these clothes move, breathe, and look great. Your team gets the styles they like, you convey the image you want. And Cintas service includes weekly laundry and delivery. To learn more, visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
At 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, we recognize our veterans, active military, and first responders with the playing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glow, the bombs bursting gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave.
This is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Keyser. The race to the Stanley Cup begins today as the 2023 postseason is slated to begin with 4 matchups, and the first being between the New York Islanders and the Carolina Hurricanes. And the Nashville Predators had their locker clean out yesterday afternoon. Select players were made available to the media, along with Captain Roman Josi, who went over what he's excited for moving into the future.
Really inspiring seeing all those young kids come in and playing such meaningful games and playing the way they did. So as much as it hurts not making the playoffs, those last 20 games or so are definitely looking forward to the future, and definitely gives you a lot of hope.
And quarterback prospect Anthony Richardson is set to visit the Two-Tone Blue today, with the NFL Draft now 10 days away. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
A gunny performance.
Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
All the big topics.
That's what people want to know about.
Mixed with some entertainment.
So funny. It's not funny.
Give it a minute. This is Chase and Michelle with Chase McCabe and Michelle Knezovic.
We got a great show for you, even if we don't, who cares?
Chase and Michelle on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Chase and Michelle, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. We take it now to Bridgestone Arena for the Predators' end-of-the-year press conference where David Poile, John Hines, and Barry Trotz speak with the media now.
At the start of the season, I think we were all very optimistic based on having all our core players back last year, the emergence of some of our younger players last year, the additions of some veteran players like Ryan McDonough and Nino Niederreiter. Having said that, our first 50 games or so were not what we had hoped. Our goaltending was very solid with Juice and Kevin, but we're not producing 5-on-5. Our power play, which was so good a year ago was really struggling. Last year, multiple players had career years, and most players were having trouble this year replicating that. Some of our young players that played so well were really having a tough time producing. So for me, it felt like every time we took a little bit of a step forward during the season, then we'd fall back. And I never really felt that these first 50 games that we were in the playoff race, we seemed to always be playing from behind or either on the scoreboard or in the standings. When we announced Barry as our incoming GM near the end of February, together we went to work on restructuring our team. It was time to prepare a path forward. It was a time to create more opportunities for younger players. It was an opportunity, which we did, to add more draft picks, prospects, and it was also a time that we were able to create some cap space and flexibility going forward for our team. As we began to make these moves, we had a ton of injuries. Alex Carrier, Ryan Johansson, UC Parson, Philip Forsberg, Roman Johansson, Matt Duchene, etc., etc. We brought up players. We brought up more players than we thought we would ever bring up. Luke Evangelista, Phil Tomasino, Tommy Novak, Igor Afanasev, Spencer Stastny, and we signed Jake Livingstone. All these guys came up, they played hard, they brought energy, they brought excitement to every game, and they produced. Through it all, we had elite goaltending. Saros and Kevin, especially Saros, were just outstanding for us. Example, 64 saves versus Carolina. Remarkably, we got back into the playoff race. And we played meaningful games until the last 2 days of the season. I think I'm very proud of that, very proud of the team, everybody for that. I thought that was just fantastic. Well, the first 50 games, as I referenced before, were really a grind. I think the last 15 or 20 games was really fun. And that's what we wanted to have here. It's a job, I get that, but we wanted to be excited. We want to make our fans excited. And it was fun the last 15 or 20 games. Our energy was renewed in our locker room, on the ice, in the stands. And our team, repeat again, was fun to watch. Fans knew that players were giving maximum effort, and they were buying into what the coaches were asking them to do. I just can't say again how proud I was of the determination, the commitment, and big kudos to our coaches, to our staff, and our players for what we saw over the last 15 or 20 games. So while we missed the playoffs, we have a renewed sense of optimism and hope for the future. So here's where we are today. Here's what I know today. We have elite goaltending in Juice and Kevin. The general managers vote for the Vezina trophy every year. I don't know how many first place votes Juice is going to get, but I can guarantee you he got one. We know that our top players, Roman, Ryan Johansson, Philip, Matt Duchene, are going to return, and they're going to be healthy next year. And when they return next year, they're going to be productive leaders both on and off the ice. I think it's important to note that down the stretch, speaking of leadership and our top players, Ryan McDonough, Colton Sissons, Tyson Barrie, really rose to the occasion in terms of taking over the leadership of our team, and we certainly add them to our leadership pool next year. We know that the development from our younger players was fantastic. Cody Glass, Tommy Novak, Parson, Tomasino, Evangelista, young defensemen like Stastny and Livingstone. What we saw at the end of the year, and I have to get this in my last talk, because I say this all the time, was an example of our belief for most of our players that the road to Nashville is through Milwaukee. And sometimes it requires a little bit of patience, but as you saw, the difference between Cody Glass last year and this year is very significant. Tommy Novak, that played some games here a year ago, he needed to go back to Milwaukee to just grow a little bit more. And we all saw the difference in the second half of the season in these types of players. Today, the process begins towards next season, where we're going to begin our exit meetings today, and Barry will be involved in those. We're going to go through the same process with our coaches and our staff, and Barry's going to be involved in those meetings as well. We'll meet with ownership to review our organizational structure and our plans going forward, and Barry will be involved in that. And we'll soon be beginning our preparations for the entry draft, which will be here in Nashville, and Barry will be heavily involved in that. Our team in Milwaukee, our farm club, is entering the AHL playoffs, and so you might have seen about 15 minutes ago we've returned several players to Milwaukee. So last week we returned Igor Vanasev, Kevin Gravel, and today we assigned Sherwood, Jankowski, McCarron, Tomasino, Evangelista, along with defenseman Spencer Stastny, who will rejoin Milwaukee. So all these players got a great chance the last 15 or 20 games to participate in the playoff race here in Nashville, playing against the best players in the world, and now they're going to go through the same thing in Milwaukee, and we've challenged all these guys to have a deep run in Milwaukee and hopefully get a Calder Cup. And obviously this is going to really help their experience and give them a foot in the door, if you will, in terms of their opportunities to make our team on a full-time basis next year. I'm very proud. As I step away, I believe the franchise is positioned for future success. We have the right people in place with Barry at the helm and those that are around him. With the moves that we recently made at the trading deadline, we have 13 draft picks this year, which is the most since 2003. For those of you that might have been around since 2003, that draft kind of worked out real good for the Predators. It sort of was a foundation of our defense with Ryan Suter, Kevin Klein, and who was the other one, Barry?
Big Weber guy.
Shea Weber. Let's hope for the 23 draft to give similar results. The recent trades, as I said before, brought us draft picks and prospects, but also created cap space and flexibility for next season and maybe for the next few seasons, which I think is very important. So as Barry and his team take over, Barry's going to have the opportunity to evaluate and will evaluate our current roster, our prospect pool, and determine when the right time is to add players or payroll. But all the avenues are open to him, which I think is a luxury in today's game. In addition to the youngsters that I've also mentioned, we did get a glimpse of the future also with Yaroslav Askarov, who played a game in Montreal, and Joachim Kimmel, our first round pick last year, is now in Milwaukee and contributing, and will get to play in the playoffs down there. So in closing here, our team has experience and has leadership. Roman, Sessions, McDonough, Duchesne, Forsberg, Johansson. We have elite goaltending. And now more than ever, we have youngsters that are deserving of an opportunity to play in our hockey club. And we have the roster space for them to earn that. So as I wrap up and pass the keys to Barry, we really have keys and we have a pass. I have a pass for Barry. There is a path forward with a bright future. A path forward with a bright future for the Nashville Predators. It is going to be a process. It's going to take some time. I ask our great fans to give us a little bit of patience, but I also encourage our great fans to enjoy the ride, as we saw in the last 15 games. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great to come to games. It's going to be great to watch our players grow and develop and ultimately get back to where we want to be. Barry, you got the keys.
Thanks, David. I just want to say David has been a mentor to me from day one. Obviously, coming in here, and this might have been the room where the offices were. I remember starting from scratch and having a old rotary phone. So I actually had an office. Probably that chair over there was there, and what have you. So, but he's been a mentor for me. Just with people, and this is a people business, and I want to thank David for the opportunity that he's handing over the keys or the pass or whatever we want. But he is the Predators. He's going to the Hall of Fame, and like he said, this is the only job he ever wanted, and he's had it for a long time. So, and he's done it with such great passion, such great integrity. And you talk to anybody around the league, there's the highest respect for David. So I'm sitting here next to him because of him and his belief in me as a person, a coach, and now a general manager. So I want to thank David, and he will always have a seat. He'll always have a seat at the table with me. So in saying that, when I got hired before the trading deadline, we made a lot of changes. It's been a fun ride. I mean, it really has. I get to come in and not get to evaluate and get to watch and get a handle on some of the prospects, some of the veteran guys. Team, John has done a terrific job in, us doing a little bit of a tear down with some guys. Let's just call it what it is, and trying to reset here and allowed us some of the younger guys. We didn't expect that. We expected a guy like Luke Evangelista to come up for a weekend. I was telling Johnny, I think we'll just be here for the weekend. We'll get a guy back, and away he goes down, probably back down to Milwaukee. Well, he stayed and contributed. Same with Tomasino, and you can go down the list of players. And I think the one thing that John has done is he looked at the roster, he prepared the roster, and got them ready to find a way to win down the stretch. So compliment to John and his staff for that. It's undeniable. There's good pieces coming. A younger team, future prospects. We've got some leadership, as he said. We need our top players to be our top players. I don't think there's any coach or organization in professional sports. You always hear them, you need your top players to be the top players. And we'll need our top players to be our top players. Combined with the quality people that we have in the next role, and also the young players coming up, they feed off that energy. And then we have elite goaltending, as we said. So I'm excited for the future. I'm excited for the opportunity to use the assets that David has given me to work with going forward, be it draft choices, be it cap space, all that sets us up for the future. The one thing that I will say is that it is a process. It is a process to go through the evaluation. I'm going to be meeting with all the players the next few days, staff, and also the coaching staff as well. So it is a process. So I ask for everybody's patience and that going forward. I want to make sure that our expectations of this team, expectation is what you saw a little bit in at the end of the season, a hard team to play against. Let's just start there. Young guys working an effort every night. This team has a lot of the assets, but we've got elite goaltending. Elite goaltending covers up a lot of stuff. And I want to temper the expectations a little bit. I think our turnaround in terms of getting to where we want to be can be very quick with opportunities. But when we had to win games down the stretch, those high pressure, meaningful games where it was meaningful for the other team, a Winnipeg, a Colorado, a Dallas, we had a lot of trouble with them. So we've got some work to do. Let's be honest there. But we've got the assets to do that. We need a full roster as well. But we have some of those things in place. I'm looking to get faster. I want to add some size in key positions, and I want to add a little more skill, so we can score a little bit more. We can score now. We need a full roster, but we will. I want to add some skill. That's where I think the league's going, and so we have some of that coming. But we're gonna have to be patient all the time here, just because what you see in a short span of 20 games, you saw young players max out. Can they do it for 82? I don't have that answer, but you're hoping that you can grow that answer. I think, as you see, this is a men's league. And when the top teams are maxed out, there's some distance we have to still cover. So, but we have the X factor in goal all the time, and that allows us to get there night in and night out. So, I've had a fun ride. Just the last part, I'm just disappointed, like everybody else, that we didn't get there, but we will, and we've got a really good ceiling set up by what David has done going forward. I'm left myself and the management team are left in a great position to go forward here with all the assets that we need to do that and make that happen. And John's done a really good job since I've come in, and I'll leave it up to John to answer some questions on the year, I guess.
For Kevin, why don't we just open it up for questions?
David, I just wanted to know what Friday night was like for you during that timeout. It seemed like the longer it went, the more it was getting to you.
I had no idea what to do. I had no idea what to do with my hands or just wave or smile. I was very, very nice, very thoughtful of the organization. Whoever did that, the players coming out, that was all special. Of course, you always think of your family at times like that, and obviously my wife was there, my grandson was there, type of thing. So it's pretty cool. It's not usually the way it ends, to be very honest in this business. So as I've told everybody, I have no regrets. Very proud of my time here in Nashville, and everybody's been fantastic to me, my family, and I look to be involved as much as people like Barry and Herb Fritsch and Bill Haslam would like me to be. So thank you for asking that question.
One more. John, for you, you get down 2-0, 3-1. It's the end of the season. They could have folded the tent and called it a season, but they didn't. So was there something said in the room? That team fought all the way to the end.
Yeah, I mean, one of the objectives going into those last two games was, we kind of had a little saying in the room that down the stretch there, the team played with a lot of heart. They were hungry and with a lot of pride. And when the playoffs, when we were still fighting for the playoffs, there's also an external motivator for that. And when that was taken away, obviously when Winnipeg beat Minnesota, we kind of readjusted our mindset with the players, and that was the objective going into the weekend. We accomplished that against Minnesota, and then we got put back on our heels pretty good against Colorado. I think the messaging from Ryan McDonough, Tyson Barrie, Juice, and Colton in the room was important, but it was more to the guys that it was the first time we had seen them in a long time kind of watch the other team play, their other team's best players play, and just reiterate that we believe in them as NHL players, and we got to get back and come out to those three words that the players had really bought into and played, and we came out. And I think usually as a coach, when you have a message like that and you leave the locker room, there's certain things said when you leave the locker room, and you could clearly see that the messaging from the leaders in that room was on page with that, and the team went out and had some real strong pushback, and it was good to see.
Yeah, this question I'm not sure who it should be for, maybe John or Barry, whoever wants to answer, but as you look ahead to next year's team, almost seems like in some ways kind of two different teams, and I'm kind of wondering what the integration process will be like a little bit. Are you still a team that's kind of committed to the core veterans, or do you feel like you're a team, looking to the future with a lot of young guys playing a lot of ice time next year?
Well, I think that, I'm going to answer that because I think it's going to fall on me a little bit. We've got to get. I'm going to go through the meetings with every player. We've already sent out, I think, 9 or 10 guys to Milwaukee. Had those meetings, but I'm going to meet with all the players, and I think it's going to be a blend. I mean, there's growth. I'm going to speak from some of them. I'm going to work from the older players. I mean, Some of the older players had career years, and they're important for us to win. So, and then you got the emergence of young players. You take a Tommy Novak. I mean, we moved Michael Granlund, for instance, so that a Tommy Novak might have an opportunity to come in and do what he's done. So, as older players, they see younger players moving up the ladder in terms of their ability to play. And I use the term a man's league. What you're seeing is some young men turn into men and playing in a National Hockey League. And as that happens, so there's a closer divide between your talented older players and your young players, and it's going to have to be integration. Some of the older players may not get some of the minutes that they did in the past, so they've got to sort of remake themselves a little bit and find the role. But we want to get everybody on the right seat. You've heard me, John, for years talk about getting people in the right seat, knowing their role, and then doing their job. And if we get all that in place, I think we can have a really good turnaround. And we've got, as I say, ways to do that with adding people through free agency, through trades. We've got cap space now as a weapon. So we may be able to get some of those pieces. I mean, Ryan McDonough got here because we had some cap space. And you find out that Ryan McDonough does a lot of those intangible things. I mean, I think his face has taken as many pucks as his shin pads this year, but that's the commitment that you need to win. You need the skill guys to score some goals. You need the committed defenders to defend. You need your goaltending to be as it is. We've had great goaltending. And you need everybody contributing. So I think there's a really good blend of some of the older players and some of the young. If you get too old of a team, I think you lose some of that enthusiasm and some of that fire that you need for an 82-game schedule. If you get too young, you can get overwhelmed and not have the guidance that you need to have success in this league. You see it all the time with really young teams. I see it as a coach. Every start of every season, a young team comes out of the blocks and they win like 8 of their first 10, and everybody's going, man, this team's getting over the hump. And then they, a month later, they lose 8 or 10 in a row. Where you see a veteran team come out a little slower because they know that they're building, and then they finally do, and you usually see them in the playoffs, those good teams. But I think we're going to have a blend, and I think that's the most dangerous when you have that blend.
Barry, regarding a couple of those veterans, specifically Johansson and Duchesne, how confident are you in physically they will be ready to go when the time is right?
I'm pretty confident on Dutchie. Obviously, it's a hand. There'll be some rehab on both. I think Ryan's got the type of injury that he has. Probably has a little bit more time to it, to getting to a place where he's going to, get to so he can be a contributing player. That's going to take, as I said, I think I was on Jared Stillman's show. They asked me the same question, and I said, Joey's going to have his best summer. The league is getting quicker. Joey's a skillful player. He's got size. He's good on faceoffs. He's got lots of things to offer, but the game is getting quicker, and he's not. That's not one of his strengths. So, how do you get that half second back? It's going to be a summer training, all that, and then getting into a role where it makes sense for him as well. And so right now, I think he's chasing the moving train a little bit, but he can catch it. But he's going to have a really good summer, and then his play coming into training camp and all that will sort of dictate his role in terms of how far up the lineup he plays, or how far down the lineup he plays. That's just the evolution of as your team gets maybe a little deeper in the center ice, be it with like a Tommy Novak type guy or Parsons moving to the middle. There's lots of options for the coaching staff. So it's in the players' hands, and really a lot of times everybody thinks that's the management's decision to make. The player makes the decision for the management usually, based on how prepared they are, how they perform, and then the decisions are made after that.
Hey Barry, Jill Jelnick, Fox 17 Sports right
Hello.
here. You mentioned the turnaround for this team can be quick. Obviously, winning is going to help that turnaround, but for you specifically, what are some of those key factors that can help make a quick turnaround?
Well, it starts with your best players. We got to get them healthy. And then they've got to perform at the level that they're capable of. Two, obviously, a couple of tweaks in terms of adding a little bit, as I said, some skill and some speed to the lineup. And then I think the factor is if our goaltending holds to the level that it has, that will keep you in some games that maybe you don't belong in, and you steal some points, and you get the confidence, and adding those young guys into the lineup and having them perform. I mean, a lot of guys will come up and perform in a short period of time, and you try to translate that over 80 games. Sometimes it takes a year or two to get there, but that's why you always have a little bit of patience for guys that have skill and have creativity and all that. So you're asking young men to become men, and different routes. I mean, like a guy like Parsonen is a big body player who was having a terrific year until he got injured. Now, what's his ceiling going to be next year? So everybody has their own time frame. Tommy Novak's time frame has been much different than another player. Maybe it's Luke. He's a little bit older than Luke. So I think there's not a perfect answer, but I think it can happen fairly quickly.
Yeah, Barry, I'm wondering how much, if at all, those last 15, 20 games changed your opinion of how far away you thought this team might be, or how much it would affect your short-term plans.
I think it's really encouraging. I mean, anybody who's watched the last 20 games, you have to be encouraged. But you have to be, as I was saying, sometimes you have to be a little bit realistic too. That this team maxed out in 20 games with the pieces that were there, and a total compliment to the players and coaching staff. But we'll get our veteran players back. We'll get a full roster, and I'm very encouraged because I could have said early, I went down to Milwaukee and really quick in this process, and I could have said to you, watching Luke, and you see how he's not a big guy. I think he's going to need another year in Milwaukee. Right now, I'm really open to it. So it has changed my view. Luke Evangelista has opened my eyes up of, hey, maybe I should leave a spot for him. Those type of things are eye-opening for management all the time, because you want those young guys to perform, and you want to be accurate in your assessment, because our job is to put a product on the ice that can win a Stanley Cup, and that is our vision, and it's going to take some time.
Two-part question for John. With a tumultuous start to the season that I don't think anybody was happy with, and then the trade deadline sell-off, how reassured do you feel about the support you've gotten from the organization and the way things have gone down the stretch, and now the plans for the future? And for Barry, I don't know how well you knew John before you came in and worked as closely as you've had over the last couple of months, but how much better do you feel about him and what he can do for the future moving forward?
Is that? I think I'm going to.
The first question.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, John. You know what? I've been very, very fortunate. I had the opportunity in New Jersey to work with Ray Shero, who was very supportive, great general manager, great person, obviously. And then coming to Nashville and having the opportunity to work with David, I feel really, really lucky to be able to have two general managers like that. I think have great experience. They're great people. They communicate with you. Certainly pushed me in certain areas and challenged me, but very supportive at the same time. And then I felt now with Barry coming in with the last, since the trade deadline, in my opinion, it couldn't be, another great hockey guy. To me, it's a little bit different. He's a great man. I tried to really take advantage. Obviously, he's going to be a Hall of Fame coach. Great experiences in the game. I thought that Barry and I have worked well together. I feel like we've developed a good relationship as far as, I think, the ability to communicate, share information, I think be open with each other. So to me, and what I've tried to do is pick his brain. I think sometimes he sees things a little bit different than a guy like David who, has been a manager for so long, and Barry's kind of fresh from coming off of coaching to be better. I mean, that's your job as a coach, is to try to use the resources around you. But I felt, since I've been in Nashville, from David's support and then with Barry coming in, you couldn't ask for a better situation as far as people to work with, communicate with, support you, but also push you to be better.
Yeah, our relationship has been very good, actually, and he's correct. I mean, I still got a little bit of that coaching blood in me, so I just tried to stay out of the way as much as I can. But we've had talks on different things, and we were rivals when I was on the island in Washington, and John was in New Jersey, and that. So we know a little bit of that through our coaching friends and colleagues, if you will. But we've had a good relationship, and he's a very well prepared coach, and he's trying all the time to grow. And we've had some discussions on systematic things and hockey things and handling of certain players or situations. That's always good dialogue, and it tells me that you're not closed mind on. You're still willing to grow. I've run across colleagues of mine that no matter what you say or what you think, there's only one way to do it, and they've done it that way for a long time, and it's not going to change. And unfortunately, I disagree with that. The game keeps changing, and it keeps evolving, so you have to keep growing. And I think John has recognized that, and that's why I think he's a good young coach.
Barry, with the assets that you've got now in the cupboard, how open will you be this summer to, with the cap maybe only going up $1 million, to add via trade for the immediacy of next year?
Well, I think I'm gonna be really open to that, obviously. But to me, the whole key to where I think our team is to be adding the right pieces, like the right people, not just adding a piece because it's free agent frenzy and it seems like the right thing. That it's got to be the right person. If not, I'm gonna back away, and I'm gonna let a good young player grow, and something will come our way. I mean, sometimes if you move too quick, you miss out on even a better piece. I think one of the areas that I think will be a greater strength that is maybe getting missed is there's a lot of teams in this league, probably half of them, David probably has a better number than I do, are up against the cap, and they're in trouble. And so you might be able to squeeze some really good assets, the assets that you want out of them for a piece that fits in really well. So everything will be open in terms of that, but it has to be the right piece because we have people coming.
Barry, you had a couple of assistant coaches that were the head coach in Milwaukee with Peter and Lane. Obviously, you've been here for a few months. You watch Carl Taylor and what he's done. How much does his job kind of factor into maybe evaluations with the coaching staff, assistants, what have you, and wanting to keep him in the organization since he's been such a crucial part to that, knowing he's probably going to get some calls for jobs in the NHL?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that you look around the league, there's good people from Nashville's organization in so many different areas, and that's a tribute to David, the staff that he's built, the coaches he's hired, all that. So that's no different. Carl's done a really good job. We've taken a lot of the players away because of injuries, and we've filled in. I think Scotty Nichols done a really good job. We've spent money to put a good team in Milwaukee to cover up for all the guys that were up here. So Carl's done a good job in terms of all that. He's transitioned, the Milwaukee team from having what you saw here and had another team, and now he's getting his team back, and so he's going to handle 30 players down there. So it'll be very interesting. But yeah, Carl's been a part of the development plan. Carl's been a part of the winning in Milwaukee. So yeah, he'll be assessed as like everybody else for sure.
Barry, this is for you. I think the answer might be obvious, but first of all, is the plan to keep John, at least going into next season, as the coach of this team?
Well, John has a contract, and as I said, this will be a process. And I'm going to evaluate, from the players to the staff to John. We're going to talk about his plan for next year and go from there. That's the process, and you got to respect the process. It's the same process that David has gone through with me for a long time. So I don't think he was able to answer that question right away when you asked me that.
Also, given the circumstances of everything that's happened, since you've been here, in February, how crucial is that for you guys to be able to work that closely together, for you to be able to get a head start on that evaluation?
Well, it's really important. I think relationships are critical in this business. Relationships, me and John, we didn't know each other too well. And I've got to know John. I know he's got a great personality. We get along great. And also you talk about the hockey side. We're hockey nerds. We talk systems. We talk that type of stuff. There's so many things. And obviously, that's been my life for forever. And so when you have good people and you know good people, it's really easy to make really good evaluations.
John, 2 years in a row you've had you've had young guys come up and really kind of change your hockey team. How exciting is it for you knowing you're going to have this influx of youth going into next season, and what is it about you that you've been able to connect with these guys so well?
Well, it is exciting. I think as Barry alluded to earlier, to be able to win in the league, I think you have to have veteran players that are your top players be able to perform at a consistently high level and be able to drive a team. But I think when you look around the league and good teams, you do need to have an influx of young players that can come in. And I think probably the exciting thing is 2 different seasons and 2 different style of players that have come in. But I think the fact that the young players can come in and they can they've shown that they can compete and bring their skill sets that make them good players, productive players in the NHL. And I think that that's something that is very encouraging for it. And I'll go back to what Barry said. I think it was spot on in the sense that the best teams, you have to have a mix. It can't you come in with all young players in a quote unquote rebuild. It's difficult to have success over the course of 82 games and or in the playoffs. But I think when you have a strong veteran group that can perform consistently at a high level, and then you bring in young players that add different components to your team. It could be speed, it could be physicality, it could be goal scoring, it could be a special teams element, energy and hunger to your group. That's what you need, I think, to continue to move forward to be a strong team. And I would say that a few years ago it was the Trennans and the Janots and Carriers and guys like that came in and had a strong impact and had great seasons for us. And then this year it was kind of a new group of guys, a little bit different style of players, but a very similar impact down the stretch here. So that's certainly encouraging. I think as far as connecting with them, it's trying to, do what you do as a coach, is make sure that they feel comfortable, they understand what their role is going to be, what their expectations are, kind of coaching them and teaching them, trying to get some relationships with them so you understand what makes them tick. And I think the big thing also is just trying to understand the transition that they're going through. And, a lot of times it is coaching too, but I still would go back to, I think in both circumstances, we've always had good veteran guys that, both years, I think a lot of veteran players were out of the lineup, but the players that were in the lineup, I think, handled the situation the right way with their attitude, accepting the young players, working hand in hand with the coaches of trying to make sure that those guys can perform and play, and the team's going to be in a good spot. And I'm certainly grateful to the guys that helped us with that down the stretch this season.
Barry, you mentioned a few times Tommy Novak. You know what you saw from him this year, enough that you might make signing into a longer-term deal priority. And I guess as long as I'm on the contract front, Cody Glass, he one of the priorities too in terms of being an RFA.
Yeah, I think both of them. You're correct on both. There's no reason not to. Obviously, Tommy just signed a new deal for the year, but we'll let him start, and then I'm sure we'll have some discussions on that. And I'm happy with both players. I mean, both give us some offense, both give us some youth, and if I look at both of them, they both should be getting better as they're hitting their turn. I said that age of 24 is sort of to me is a very key sort of transition from being that young man to a man. They're both getting into that range, so I'm hoping for good things for both of them.
This is for David. I'll give you a break, Barry.
Thank you.
You mentioned in your review, excuse me, of the season, the youth movement and all the guys in the last 20 games or so. I know there were some trades that necessitated and had some open spots there, but I'm just curious, was it really just more that injuries and happenstance? Is it safe to say that some of the young guys, Evangelist, Afanasiev, Spencer Stastny, we might not have seen if not for the injuries?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we can't take credit for all those injuries to give those guys those opportunities. But you know what, the questions and the theme right now and is the older players, the younger players, and the blend that's been used. You may have noticed that we've signed Sherwood, we've signed Jankowski, we've signed McCarron. I think we already have got what a lot of teams are going to be trying to do in the off season, and that's to get their depth. Like I can't tell you what our defense pairings and our forwards look like next year, but I can show you a list of players that have a legitimate chance of making the National Predators, and it's more than 20 that dress for every game. I like that. I hope that we've left that message with the players when we had our meeting yesterday, that we're open for change. We're hopeful that our veterans return back to what Barry said to be our top players. I think it could be really a very interesting year next year with the development of the younger players and the return to form with our veteran players. So in my remarks, like I said, I'm very optimistic. I also know from all my years of experience that whatever we're going to say today, it won't even be close to that when we get to September, because there'll be some trades, there'll be some surprises, and unfortunately there's going to be a disappointment. It happens all the time. So everybody's got a lot of work to do this offseason, from the young players holding their spot if they will. They have to have those good summers because if they do, we're going to go with them, I'm sure. And it's the same thing with the veterans. If they have great summers or what have you, that's going to make all the difference in the world. A lot of our problems go away when Forsberg and Duchesne and Joey return to form and score goals. Our power play improves. I mean, I got a lot of reason to be optimistic, but this is what's great about the game. We really don't know what's going to happen. So stay tuned and make sure you're there for the first day of training camp next year.
Yeah, John, for as much fun and what we learned from all the young players the last 15, 20 games, how do you kind of go back and rationalize the first 50? What do you learn from where you did kind of fall short there for a while, and what lessons do you try to impart to some of your top players to be the top player?
Yeah, I think it's. We all have to take ownership of that first half of the season, and I think there's different things that we'll talk with the guys about here starting today, as far as some assessments of individuals, assessments of starting with myself and moving down through the coaching staff, and then I think into the players. And right now it's. I think that those conversations are important to have. We haven't had them yet with the players, but I think it starts with taking some lessons out of that. Right off the top of my head, there's a lack of consistency. I think in our team play and individual play, Our power play was a factor at times where usually when that can come through for you, when we were a top 5 unit a year ago, or last season, and then this past season it wasn't what it needed to be, but we had the same guys on it. So I think there's some important discussions to have with the players, with the veteran players now, and getting a plan together with them to make sure that we have the right answers to moving forward the right way. But I would say the first half of the season, overall, I think it was just a lack of consistency in the way that you need to play to have success night in and night out.
David or Barry, maybe David, because you brought him here. I know you're going to be sitting down with the players individually, but has Mark Borowiecki expressed maybe his interest or intentions moving forward? We know he's sacrificed his body a lot over the years. Is there anything on that front?
Yeah, Boro has been great for us. Unfortunately, his concussion didn't allow him to play this year, and I think we got to allow him to make his final decision, because I don't think he's quite made the final decision. But if he doesn't want to play anymore, I certainly would like to talk to him. I mean, I've talked to Barry about that. I've talked to John about that. Boro has been around all the time. I said to him yesterday, we had our meeting, I said, we missed Boro in our lineup. Not only his physical presence, but the person that he is. He's a real mentor to the younger guys. He's really helped us this year, especially down the stretch here when we had all these injuries. We had a portion of people had to be left behind on trips, so we had an off-ice crew doing rehabs, and we had an on-ice crew with Sebastian Boro. Boro was part of that. Jackie Manzel, our skating coach, and he did a really good job. So Boro certainly is a guy that we're going to talk to regardless of his playing status after this season.
This question is for both David and Barry. You two have obviously worked together for a very long time, and I have to imagine at some point you disagree on a couple of things. So how have you handled that part of the transition of David still being the general manager, but obviously some decisions have to be made before Barry officially takes over? When you have those disagreements, how have those discussions gone?
I mean, I'm going to tell you, actually, I don't think we have had many disagreements. I got mad one time in the first couple of years in expansion where I came down and it was hard to win, so we were losing every game 3-2. And of course, I'm the general manager. I said, I said, why don't we try to get 3 goals, or why don't we? I'll accept losing 5-1, but let's try something different. And Barry was like, "You're not a coach."
We have to coach this is about the coaching. We really haven't had any disagreements. It's more discussions, because I think the one thing that David has is a wealth of experience in his position. I've acquired a wealth of experience in my position over the years, and I think the hockey and the coach and general manager sees the game a little bit different, but at the same time you see it meshing together. And I think that's where I think David has allowed me, with respect, to voice my opinion, and I listen to David's opinion, and then we're able to state it, and then there's no ill will or anything. It's just you need people to express their opinions on that, because when you look at it from different angles, it's different. It's from a player's angle, from a coach's angle, from a general manager's angle. It's all different. The game's way different when I'm sitting with David upstairs than it is when you're behind the bench where John is. It's just a different view of the game. The emotions, the things, systematic stuff that maybe John has changed a little bit to help us win on a daily basis. We don't always necessarily get those changes right away because they're happening on the fly. And so it's just a different view. And you have a different view of the team than I would, and David and John. So, but we all respect each other's opinions, and I think that's very important if you're going to grow as a group.
it's always really great when you come down to the room after a game. It might have gone so well, and you're up there, way up there, and you say, geez, the game was slow tonight. And the coach is like, you got to be kidding me. We're busting our butt and all that stuff. So
Just eat a pizza and don't say anything to him after that.
Yeah.
Barry, you used this phrase earlier, and certainly your teams were always known for being tough to play against. As you've
Yeah.
come back after a few years away, do you believe the Predators still have that identity? And if not, what do you have to do to get it back to where you want it to be?
Well, I will say that I've come in after the trade deadline. It's been hard to play. They've been a hard team to play against, even with a limited roster, if you will. A lot of young guys. I think hard to play against. I watched Colorado in that first period the other night. They had just finished 5 games. That was their 5th game in 7 nights. Traveled from Colorado. They didn't have a lot of juice on that team. But they knew that was an important game, and they maxed out. I want to say in the first period. We didn't touch the puck a whole lot, and that's a hard team to play against. That's the reason they're Stanley Cup champions. So when I say hard to play against, you've got to be hard to play against to the identity of your team, of what you have. And that goes to a player. I mean, there's certain players that are, like I look at a guy like, Colton Sissons. He's consistent, he's good, he's strong, you know what you get every night. And then you look at our Roman Josi, you know what he's doing, you know what Saros is doing. We need Philip Forsberg and those guys. They're injured this year. But when Philip's on his game, for instance, he is a beast to handle. That's hard to play against, and he can score. And so when I say hard to play against, it's not just everybody banging heads and dumping it in and just crashing and banging. No, it's playing to your identity on a consistent basis, knowing who you are as a player, who you are as a team. Then you're hard to play against, and you got to have that commitment to the group and to winning. And you've heard me talk about looking for serial winners, because those are the intangibles. The guys, there's a commitment level or an expectation to the person next to you that winning teams have. And teams that, I'll say, don't win a lot, don't have that. They just don't, it's not quite in their DNA. So that's something that can be developed. It can be developed with multiple people, the right people, and that's when I say we go to free agency. If the right person's not there, I'm not touching him. But if he's there, we're going after him. That's sort of the mindset I want to go in with, is that we've got lots of good people here, and we're going to continue to add good people and good players.
David, what will be the hardest part of being a general manager that he can't fully know until it's his seat?
That's a great question. Thanks, George.
Well,
you got my text, obviously.
Well, we've already talked about the coach's hours versus the GM hours, and I'm not going to ever say one works harder than the other, but it's different. So that's one thing, like you say, you got to get your stride. I know the coaches got their stride. I can never beat them in the morning. They're here before me every game day, and they leave way later than I do. On the other hand, they get to go home in the afternoon to have maybe a nap before the game. I never go home. I'd like to go home, but my wife said that we married for rich or poor, but not for lunch. So she's going to have to get used to that. I'm trying to be funny, but I don't know. It's just, it'll come. I think this whole thing with Barry coming on board when he did, a peek under the hood, I think that's served him unbelievable. I know for me, as I try to pass stuff off, mostly paper to Barry, I think he's just putting it in the garbage can, by the way, but anyway, that's been good. But there's been so many things that have happened in this last month or so, with the injuries, the call-ups, the trades. It's been a real education, right there. His ability to travel with the team and to be with the team, and John and the other coaches, and to talk to them and what have you. This really feels like a good transition, and people don't get to do this. So, and then the other part, I guess, of course, Barry and I have been working together forever, meaning He wasn't just a coach. He was a scout for us. And he was a minor league coach for us. And he participated in the scouting meetings. As he, Paul Gardner, and myself were our pro scouts for the expansion years. So he's been in every arena. He's sat in every press box, and he's met a lot of these managers over the years. So I think it's all good. I'm not. It's probably just the afternoons.
Yeah. It's the one thing that I think you're, as a coach, you're defined by the schedule, and I think as a general manager, your schedule is defined by the situations, and so it's just different. As David says, you're going to love this job because you never know what's coming around the corner. What door's opening, what door's closing, all that. So that's invigorating to me. I still got, coached for so long. I still love the coach talk and all that. I got to watch I still got a locker room. Sometimes I say things that I would say in a locker room. I'm got to catch myself not saying around the staff, maybe upstairs, but at the same time, I'm invigorated to what's around the corner, and up for the challenge, and I'm looking forward to it. I always say we've got some great leaders in the locker room, and David's been a great leader, and I define leaders by when things are tough, you're not going to the back of the line, you're going to the front of the line, and David's always done that. So I'm trying to take that as a lead for hopefully my role going forward, is that there's going to be stuff that hits the fan, as we say, and I'm going to have to be first guy out the door to say, hey, I'm taking this head on, and David's always done that. So I think with the management and organization led by Sean and ownership, I think that relationship has to be really strong, and it is. I mean, I've been at a few places, coaching-wise, and Nashville is totally unique. It is family, it is passion, it is people, more so than any other franchise I've ever seen, and that's what makes Nashville a unique organization, and that's what makes Nashville a unique city. It's got a vibe, it's got a passion, it's got a understanding that some cities just are numb to. They don't get it. We're getting all the good stuff, and that's why I want to be here. That's why this is home, and that's why I want to hopefully take the franchise to a place that we haven't got to yet, and that's sort of my goal.
John, what would you say you've learned most about yourself as a coach, given the uniqueness of this year with, having basically two general managers and all the injuries and all the expectations and everything? What have you learned most about you?
Well, I would say, I think part of the job of coaching at this level or the professional levels, you have to be able to, I think, coach and focus in adverse situations, because you're always in them. It's why it's the hardest league in the world. It's why it's hard to get here. It's hard to stay here. But I'd say this season was more trusting yourself, trusting your beliefs, trusting what your process is, being around the importance of having good support around you, good assistant coaches, I think a management team that can communicate and support you in certain ways. And what I mean by support, it's not always patting you on the back. It's also, some things that might need to change or pushing you in different levels. And then really, finally, it is a quote, but it's so true. You can only control what you can control. For example, I didn't have any control over David's decision I'm very happy for him that he's made the decision for himself and for the organization. But you have to handle that situation. And then when Barry comes in, Barry's coming in as a new general manager, and he's got to make his assessments on what he feels is going to be the best moving forward. But I don't have any control over that. What I can do is welcome him in, try to pick his brain, try to learn from him, create a relationship. Just do what you do, and if it's and trust in that. I think if you work hard and you try to do the right things, then good things will happen. It's easier said than done when you're not in those situations, but I'd say right now, 3 big things for me is control what you can control. It's important to be surrounded by good people that can support and push you, and I think that's why your work ethic and your commitment to your task. If you just do your job, then good things should work out.
David, I'm curious if this being your last year, is there one memory or event or thing that happened in this particular season that you will remember above any others? Is there some lasting memory that you can think of that would just be, well, when you think of your last year, it's going to be that moment when that happened? Is there anything like that?
I'm not sure. I mean, I feel like today is a good day. I mean, I feel like it's in a good spot. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I've asked for patience for our great fans. I think this is a good process where we're going now. I don't regret the things and the decisions that we made together in terms of where this franchise is. So I just feel good about the franchise on the ice, off the ice, all the possibilities for the future. But if you would ask me overall, I love that 17 finals, and where Smashville truly got its name. We got to do that again. And that's the vision I had when I took this job back in '97, along with hiring Barry, and I think so many of my goals and visions were achieved, but that was the ultimate, and we've got to get back to that ultimate place again in the Stanley Cup Finals. And I think what we did this year, unfortunately, because I'm just repeating my speech again, and we had a lot of optimism starting the season, but it didn't work out. So I don't regret doing that. I think it was necessary to do, and now I think we have so many more options and possibilities going forward. But it's a process, and it's going to take a little bit of time.
Any more questions? So with that, we'll wrap. Thank you, John. Thank you, David. Thank you, Barry. Thanks, everybody who attended and watched the live stream.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
WPRT Pegram, WBUZ HD2 Laverne. We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station. At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members of FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
What if you could do business without busy work? With Ramp, you can. Ramp is the future of finance with smart automation, corporate cards, and spend management. Just imagine, no more expense reports or shuffling wrinkled receipts. No more slogging through invoices or getting surprised by unexpected charges. Just your business's big idea with smart spend controls, automation that crushes busy work, and real-time insights so you can make it happen. In other words, Ramp completely reimagined finance to make it work for your business. Get set up, issue corporate cards, and start making payments in less than 15 minutes. See how Ramp does finance. Join today and get $250 just for signing up. Just go to ramp.com/sports. That's ramp.com/sports to get $250 for signing up. That's ramp.com/sports.
Willie Donick here for Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. The official 2022 stats are in.
And the Pella brand is rated #1 by Nashville homeowners for windows and doors. One reason, Nashville homeowners selected Pella Windows #1 for the highest quality craftsmanship. Another key stat, Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville is also rated #1 for the brand that stands behind their product. If you need new doors or windows, the choice is clear. Choose the experts at Pella Windows and Doors of Nashville. Go to PellaofNashville.com.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game in a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
The puck drops at Twin Peaks. Catch the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs at your favorite Twin Peaks location tonight.
Genesis Diamonds' once-a-year spring store-wide sale is here this weekend. 3 days of phenomenal savings across the board. You save up to 35% off Genesis already guaranteed best prices. Rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, and more. Plus special financing. You can even trade in your old jewelry for some amazing new designs from our world-class designers who flew in just for this. Extra savings on GIA-certified diamonds as well as lab-grown diamonds. It's our biggest sale all year. This Friday through Sunday only. And only at Genesis Diamonds and Luxury Pre-Owned Rolex. Green Hills and Cool Springs. See store for details.
Middle Tennessee, you can count on an award-winning service team for all your home maintenance and improvement needs. Lee Company, we're A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and trusted by thousands of homeowners in our community. Our team is ready to assist with all your home maintenance projects, heating and air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, appliance service, and more. Experience the convenience of calling one phone number for all your home maintenance needs. Call Lee Company today at 615-567-1000 or visit leecompany.com.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Hey, it's Jared for Hiller. Sometimes replacing equipment in your home can be overlooked until something breaks, but there's actually big problems that can come from outdated old vintage HVAC systems. Older systems require more maintenance and results in higher utility bills. This month during Hiller's Vintage Showdown, they're giving away a free HVAC system to the owner of the oldest unit. It's easy to enter. Just go online to happyhiller.com and submit a picture of your old unit. Everybody wins with a trade-in credit and 0% interest financing for up to 48 months on replacement. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Call the Happy Face Truck today.
Parman Energy is your one-stop petroleum solution across all of Tennessee, offering turnkey petroleum solutions for professionals in major industries, serving trucking fleets, construction companies, industrial plants, and more. Whether a large corporation or owner-operator, Parman Energy